For
All
some
right.
reason, oh, okay.
I'm
For
going
some
away.
reason,
I'll be back.
okay. For some reason, Eck is wearing a green Philadelphia Phillies hat. Maybe it's in celebration of the Chase Utley trade.
Yeah.
But Russ, you have a pizza rant?
Pizza place rant. Yeah, I want to do everybody a favor out there and just talk about what a tremendous rip-off artist the pizza place owners are when it comes to soda. They've been ripping us off for years for soda, right? Like you go everywhere and it's on the fountain and there's free refills and there's no problem. You go in a pizza place and they are watching that soda like it's gold, like it's liquid gold, and it always tastes watered down too. It never tastes full strength. And so, like, even if you were to say no ice, they give you a cross-eyed look. If you don't say anything, they'll fill it 3/4 of the glass with ice. And basically the large is like, a quarter difference from the medium because they don't even want to sell you a medium because they're not even giving you a decent amount anyhow. I don't know how it is over in your part of the world, Kevin, but pizza place owners are used to ripping off people for soda when it's on the fountain.
Well, if you ask for soda in Michigan, they'd give you a scoop of ice cream with phosphated. You'd have to ask for pop in Michigan, but yeah, I mean, or the other thing too that bothers me is the giant liters will be like $2.99.
Right.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. By the way, I think Buffalo is the Mason-Dixon line of soda and pop because we call both here because we have so many students from downstate that I think they've acclimated people in Buffalo for soda and for pop. But I was going to make that point. At the takeout places in Buffalo, you go to one of the more prominent takeout places, and right around the corner is a 7-Eleven, and you could buy a 2-liter of Coke or Pepsi for 99 cents. They're charging $2.29 for a 2-liter bottle of pop, and it's like, what? Am I stupid? I'll just get in the car and go down the road and buy it for $1.30 cheaper.
But they'll charge you the same $2.29 for a medium too, figuring that you don't want to deal with all that.
Yeah.
But that's what they count on is that you want the convenience of just having it with your pizza, and you don't want to make the stop. So, and anybody who's ever been in the restaurant business know that you make your profit on the beverage usually.
Yeah, so. but the funny thing is like I can't remember the last time I went to a sit-down pizza place. It's always been
I was just in one. But here's the thing: make better pizza. Charge me for better cheese. Make good sauce, and then maybe I won't, be so grouchy about the soda. But it's like, come on. I mean, I'll buy pizza with anything on it. I'll buy it with 18,000 toppings so you can make more money. But don't rip me off on the soda right in front of my face. That's the thing.
Yeah, when I talk about pizza too, I always feel like I'm the old guy. I walk 7 miles through the snow to get to school and so forth. But, and back when I was growing up, the pizza's so different than it is today because nowadays they essentially run it through an automated oven, it seems like, with, very specific and usually not very long is it in the oven. And to the point where the cheese really is just still, it's melted, but like if you tilt your pizza, everything comes off. I would argue that in the 60s, they ran it through the oven long enough that it baked onto the pizza, so you could actually tilt your pizza lays, and you could sometimes it was even a little burnt on the top, which sort of added to it, and I miss those days.
Burnt dough bubbles that you used to get. You're right about it.
Yeah.
Well, Buffalo is unusual. Buffalo is not a place where the chain pizza places have thrived. I mean, Pizza Hut is obviously everywhere. But Papa John's,
the same way. There's plenty of
Papa John's, Domino's, Little Caesars. There's maybe 1 or 2 locations. It's mostly mom and pops. And the thing that I've noticed is, and I've decried this because I love good pizza, is in the 70s and the early 80s when I was a kid. When I was a kid and in high school, a lot of these mom and pops were owned by the original mom and pop, and the quality of the food was incredible, and the price was significantly lower. Invariably, the next generation took over, the son took over, the prices went up, the quality went down, and now it's like there are very few places that I will frequent. Like every time I want a pizza, that's the place I'll go. There used to be a dozen places. Oh, I'm right around the corner from this place. I'll get a pizza. But now you have to travel 20, 25 minutes to get a good pizza in Buffalo.
And you know what else? Like the pizza place will be called Luigi's, and everybody's used to it. And then you'll go in and say, "Hey, where's Luigi?" And they'll be like, "There's no one named Luigi here. We just bought the place. It doesn't matter."
Right. There was a place called Gino's in Cheektowaga, and I said, where's Gino's? There's never been a Gino. So.
Another great first line of a novel, Mike. There was a place named Gino's in Cheektowaga.
There was. In Wayne, Michigan as well, we had Gino's and Russo's Pizza were the dueling, pizza. A small cheese pizza was 99 cents and delivery was $4, so it was $1.24.
Wow.
I will not name the very prominent pizza franchise in Buffalo, and traditionally, I have a group of friends who come over for Super Bowl Sunday, and we order a sheet pizza and 50 wings. This is how ridiculous it has gotten in terms of prices. A sheet pizza and 50 barbecue wings 3 years ago, I have an old menu, was $48. Last Super Bowl Sunday, it was $71.
Wow. Let's talk about that for 2 seconds, too. I had this conversation with somebody in New York yesterday. For the Super Bowl, when no one cared about it, I used to just go to the deli and I would get a sandwich or a hero. Like, I know that doesn't exist in your part of the world, Kevin. I would get a hero, I'd get some chips, I'd get a soda, and I'd sit, and there'd be like maybe an hour pregame and then the game. And halftime wasn't that long. It was a regular game's halftime. And that was the Super Bowl for like the first 10 years of my life, really. I mean, now it's like, you're ordering hundreds of dollars of food and you're doing the illegal box in your living room and all that.
Oh, you get all that stuff.
Well, I just like the Super Bowl parties because you have no idea what happened in the game because there's so many people in the house and you're trying to pay attention to conversations and trying to be and a lot of times I just want to watch the game.
That's the case with me with all major sports events. Like I would rather. I mean, the Super Bowl, I don't care that much about the NFL at all, so really it's no big deal. But whenever a major hockey event goes on, my mom and family used to want to have people over, and because we would have the biggest TV, and people would come over and watch it. And I would hate that. It would make me crazy to have people over. I want to focus in. I don't want to entertain people. I don't want to do anything. I just want to focus in. I want to get the game. I want to watch it. I want to be mad if I'm mad. I want to be happy if I'm happy. And having parties for those things, that's tricky.
Well, I mean.
I'm always so surprised, Deck, when you say you don't like the NFL, just because, like, I don't. If you in the turn of the 20th century, so let's call it in 1905, if you put together the best marketing people in the world and said, let's create a game that could make millions and get everyone involved, you couldn't come up with a better game than football in terms of the way it's set up. Like, when you go to watch an NFL game, for example, there's like 12 seconds of action, and then there's 40 seconds to sit with the person next to you and talk about either what you just saw or carry on a conversation. It's like the perfect game, and there's, it requires, size and skill, and I'm a hockey guy through and through, but the NFL is just such a perfect sport.
I can. 8 or 10 minutes of real action now in an NFL game. That's it. If you put it,
it's always been,
That's how it's always been, and I agree with that. I mean, that's a thing, and I mean, my dislike of it is just not a passion for it. Like it's not that I don't dislike it. I don't have a passion for it. Like a couple times I'll get into the playoffs and stuff like that. When like I said, I grew up with Rich Gannon, so I used to follow him, and that would be a fun thing. And I'll get into it with the Eagles once in a while, but for the most part, I really just think I think part of me is overdone with it. And if you listen to sports talk radio in this city, I just get so tired of the before XM radio came about, all you could listen to was our local sports talk, and there's just the amount of hyper management that the fans are throwing in on these 16 games or what have you. That to me makes you crazy.
I mean, the funny thing is that I used to be as passionate about football and the Bills, which are my favorite team, as I was about hockey and baseball. But over the years, my passion for it has waned because of the over commercialization of football, because of there's a lot of thuggery in terms of the players in the league, and the Super Bowl used to be, it used to be a couple commercials, and now it's like Russ was saying, it's a 7-8 hour event with a 4.5 hour pregame, and Britney Spears or Katy Perry jumping all over the stage during halftime, and it's just too much, and I'm really just. I will watch it with a bunch of friends because it's something to do on a Sunday afternoon, but in terms of it being appointment television, I'd rather watch a hockey game any day.
Now I'm going to switch it over from football to hockey. I had this big argument going on my Facebook page yesterday because lately you've probably read the football stories like Geno Smith got his jaw broken in a practice, and then Des Bryant got attacked by another guy in practice. And my feeling was, in the NFL now, because they have these huge preseason rosters and sometimes they're scrimmaging against other teams, absolute nobodies now want to take cheap shots at players, but to the point where they're really hurting them. Like we saw, Des Bryant got punched in the face. He could have easily gotten a broken jaw like Geno Smith, and I think those guys should be brought up on assault charges. And then someone said, well, what about hockey? Because that always inevitably comes into it. And I said, if someone swings a stick in hockey and hits somebody, I'm okay with bringing that guy up on charges too.
Yeah.
Well, Dino Ciccarelli was arrested in Toronto when he swung the stick at Luke Richardson back in the I think it was in the late '80s. I mean, so it's not without precedent. But no, I mean, I can. If I had $1 for every time I remember there being a fight in training camp when I was younger, I remember like Wendell Clark had to fight some invitee to training camp. The guy wanted to prove himself against the best fighter on the team.
But they're not getting sucker punched. They know the fight's coming. That's the difference.
Right, that's a difference. And
you can't say guys never got sucker punched in a training camp game.
Oh, I'm not going to say never. I'm just saying now it's becoming like a thing.
Yeah, but I think we're living in a glass house there. I saw your argument on Facebook, and I think it's just ridiculous that you have that kind of thing. But because we're hockey guys, that, as Mike just alluded to, that stuff happens all the time, still happens, and they like it less than they're less tolerant of it than they used to, and we don't have as many guys showing up at training camp now. We, in the old days, as there used to be cast 1,000. You could actually make the team in those days based on, how you perform now. Everybody kind of knows, rarely do you hear of a guy making it, during training camp,
Sure.
It's just not the same as it used to be. But you still have that. You still have guys that are trying to make a name for themselves by taking on the Wendell Clark or whoever it is. So.
Oh yeah, you have to do that.
Plus, I just don't think both hockey and NFL are violent games, and not that that anything goes, because I agree with Mike. If a guy uses a stick, he should be charged. But you got to be careful, because the minute you start trying to draw a line, then where is that line, and you're interpreting. So, do you really want two fighters to be charged?
Yeah, that's a really hard line when you start bringing the law into it. I agree. The one thing I was thinking the other day is, watching all these football players go down with injuries and stuff like that, and how much they protect the quarterbacks. Why hasn't the NFL gone to a preseason flag football type thing for quarterbacks? Do we have to kill the quarterbacks? I mean, it would. I mean, I know it sounds wimpy, and football purists would be furious at me, but really, we're in that spot anyway. Why not the quarterback, if he drops back, if he's in the pocket, unless he crosses the line? You got the two flags on him. You pull one of the flags off, he's out.
It hasn't been the quarterbacks that have been falling in season in the NFL. I mean, Kelvin Benjamin.
But there's so much protection, and the teams are so scared to play their quarterbacks at all, like in the preseason games.
Well, you can't touch the quarterback. So.
Right. So, and wouldn't this be better then for guys, like if they could just pull the flag off the guy?
But I mean, they're not the problem. I mean, Mike's right. You can't touch the quarterback, so they're not getting hurt as much as they used to. It's the running backs and everyone else. To me, the biggest change that the NFL could make that would really help is if they put a weight restriction at 300 pounds.
I agree with that. That's huge.
If you said no one can play who's over 300 pounds, there's not a man an athlete alive that couldn't function at under 300 pounds.
Right.
It would help because it's just less weight that you're throwing on the limbs and joints and so forth. It would just help the game.
Yeah, but when I was a kid, there was only like 2 or 3 guys at 300 pounds, and nobody else was even near that.
I have a feeling that you'd have a bunch of defensive tackles trying to lose weight like wrestlers on Saturday to get a 299 and then bulk up like boxers do.
But they all lose weight. Like when you see them on TV and afterwards, they don't even look like the same guy. They all lose weight afterwards when their doctor says this isn't healthy.
Please, right. Mark Schlereth for ESPN when he was with ESPN after he's been an offensive lineman for the Denver Broncos. He was 290 pounds when as a player. He was 210 the next year. He lost 80 pounds in a year, and I'm like, whoa. I mean, I guess I guess not to. I'm not making any accusations, but there are ways to maybe he had stomach staple surgery. All I can say.
There you go.
Very good. All right, let's start the show. Excellent. I did want to talk about the pizza thing, but I will have to wait another day for that one. We have tomato pie here in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you have tomato pie.
No, it's good. It's good.
Do you have tomato pie, Mike or Kevin?
No. And I don't want it. So.
Tomato pie is just. It's like a Sicilian-looking pizza, like a square pizza with just sauce in it and Parmesan cheese sprinkled on top.
No. Yeah, I misunderstood. We have that, like some of our supermarkets sell them, and
it's no melted cheese, just straight up.
Because you can put your own toppings and things of that.
Right, your own cheese or whatever you want to do. There you go.
What I want a place in Buffalo that does deep dish pizza, that good deep dish pizza, because I've had it in a couple places and. It's really good, but there's nobody here that does it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Deep dish pizza can be greasy if it's bad. Here we go. On your mark, get set.
Go.
Oh yes, thanks. The 20th.
Thursday, August 20th.
All right, sorry. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, August 20th, 2015.
I'm Michael Lagello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Kevin Allen, USA Today Sports.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the HockeybuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday around this time, or is usually an hour earlier, but today, appreciate it, we're doing it an hour later. But that doesn't mean we're not ready to talk. We're going to get into we're going to continue our discussion from the other day, which I'm just filling Russ in now, live, so he doesn't really know what I'm talking about. But the other day, we did a show where we picked 2 players to compare to, 2 teams to compare to, and then 2 of the same thing to 2 things, like it could be like a Snickers bar and a Mounds bar or whatever, 2 things to compare it to. So it's basically off the old Hockey Digest theme of what's better or who's better. And Kevin and I did ours on 2 days ago, and then Monday, I guess, or Tuesday it would be. And today I thought, Mike, you could do yours, and then Russ, you can come up with one as we're going along here. But Mike, why don't you start? Because I got a lot of emails. Thanks so much for the emails, by the way, too. If you really like something we're doing or don't like something we're doing, please Eklund at HockeyBuzz.com. I read it every day, and I really appreciate the
all the negative emails to Eklund at HockeyBuzz.com.
Yeah, it's definitely worth send the emails there. So let's start with you, Mike. What do you got? Give us something here.
Okay, the 2 players that I came up with, and I was talking to Kevin before we went live the one day, that I think that these are pretty, 2 pretty equally balanced players and really important for their respective teams, but. Ryan Getzlaf for the Anaheim Ducks and Anze Kopitar for the LA Kings. Both number 1 centers. Both have scored over 30 goals, once or twice in their careers. One has won 2 Stanley Cups with Kopitar. Getzlaf won in 2007 with the Ducks, but he was more of a secondary player at that time. He hasn't won a cup when he's been the number 1 guy. My personal opinion of the 2, even though I think Getzlaf his offensive totals have been better over the last couple of years, I like Kopitar. I think Kopitar is a better 2-way player, and I think Kopitar with his new, he'll probably be getting a new contract with the Kings starting next year. He's probably going to be making as much or more than Getzlaf when his deal comes up. So what do you think, Ak?
Wow, that's a good one. Kevin, you want to start with this one?
Yeah, I love this one too, and it fits our theme because it's just such an impossible
Right.
position. But I guess I'm going to side with Getzlaf, even though Kopitar is a winner, a proven winner, and he's such a smart player as well. But Getzlaf, I think for a big man, I've always found him to be highly skilled. Like he's got some moves for a big guy, and I just think he's as important to his team as anybody out there, including Kopitar. So it's just a gut feeling. But I don't have any beef with anybody would take Kopitar, and probably the majority probably would take Kopitar.
It's a tough one, man.
Yeah, I think that's a great one, by the way.
It's a great one, yeah. Kopitar. I mean, there's personally, as the person thing, Getzlaf's married to a South Jersey girl, right, Russ? Is she?
Yep.
He is married to a Cherry Hill girl, which is where I grew up. Bobby Ryan grew up and all that. But he,
so we know you're biased, Dak.
No. But no. But Kopitar, and I don't know if any of you guys got to see the Kopitar video when when he got the Stanley Cup. They brought the Stanley Cup to his house in Slovakia.
Slovenia.
Right, Slovenia. Sorry. Yes, that's a horrible mistake. Sorry about that, Anze. But yeah, Slovenia. It was an amazing video, and it gave you such an understanding of what Kopitar is all about. And his grandmother played hockey with him in their backyard that she froze over. Really cool video. So I mean, it's just both are such good, interesting people too. I think at the end of the day, I'm going with Getzlaf too. Yeah, I think that this is the first of these that Kevin and I have agreed on. Getzlaf is definitely. I'm such a huge fan of Getzlaf. He does everything really well. He's a little more consistent than Kopitar in my mind. Kopitar has had his ups and downs. Definitely over the last 3 or 4 years, Kopitar's gotten way more consistent. But early in his career, if you remember, there were moments when Kopitar was facing a lot of questions as to whether or not he was going to be all that. But he's proven to be all that over time. Getzlaf reminds me so much of Eric Lindros, who's one of my favorite players of all time too. That's the other thing about Getzlaf when I watch him play. That wrist shot from the high slot is as hard as most people's slap shots. I love watching Getzlaf skate. He's such a good ambassador for the game. So is Kopitar. But I think at the end of the day, if I could pick one for my team, I'd go with Getzlaf. What do you think, Russ?
I'm gonna go Kopitar because he's sort of like that silent assassin and really does a good job of making other players around him better. Like he's like one of those quiet leaders in the locker room, but he's really a good leader in the locker room. But he's got those steely eyes, and he's very decisive about what he does on the ice and what he says off the ice. And he may not have that physical game that Getzlaf has, but he just has a way of making himself be very hard to cover.
Yeah.
You have to know where he is every minute, and sometimes teams lose sight of him, and he does wreak havoc that way. He's not the flashiest guy. He's not the strongest guy. He doesn't have the best shot, but he's a complete package. Like, he gets the job done, and he is a winner. And so I sort of like Kopitar in this one.
Yeah, so we've got 3. Where are you with, Mike?
2-2.
Kopitar 2-2, right? Wow.
And that's the way it should be, actually.
Yeah, I know.
That's a tough call, and Kopitar has made himself. I know. I remember doing a story about some of his line mates just talking about how hard he worked at just being more of a physical force. I mean, he's not a physical player, but just being able to handle and get along the boards, go into the boards, and be able to come out with the puck. Like, he's really worked at it. So, I have such overwhelming respect for both players that it's, I find it impossible really to pick for them. Basically, I think if you were starting a team, you'd probably just take the younger of the two.
Yeah.
It's just, that's how you would settle it.
Yeah, but if you had to win one game tomorrow, that's the thing.
That's a tough one. But I guess I would still stick with Getzlaf.
I would stick with Getzlaf if you had to win one game tomorrow. And not that, you could go wrong. And Kopitar is definitely one of the pillars of that Kings franchise, which has been a really successful franchise. I mean, he's up there with Quick and Doughty, like we talked about before. So, wow, it's a good one. Mike, so what's your team's comparison?
Okay, now what I did was I wanted to see which team was better between 2 teams that I think have a potentially fatal flaw.
Okay.
In the East, it's the Pittsburgh Penguins. They have unbelievable talent up front, a very good goaltender in Marc-Andre Fleury, who I think has been unfairly blamed for some of their failures over the last couple years. But their defense, with the exodus of Niskanen, with the exodus of Orpik, Ehrhoff, Scuderi has sort of gone downhill. Letang with the injury problems, some trades that they made were not good. I mean, they're depending a lot on young guys like Mata and Pouliot to carry them forth, and I don't know whether that team can overcome that shortcoming or that question mark area. In the West, it's the St. Louis Blues. Again, depth, great talent, great scoring ability. Unlike Pittsburgh, their defense is really good. A top three of Shattenkirk, Bouwmeester, and Pietrangelo is top-notch. They have a couple good young defensemen as well. But as we've seen over the last few years, the goaltending, whether it's Ryan Miller or Halak or Elliott or now Jake Allen last year, they have not been able to overcome, at best, average goaltending when it counts in the postseason. Now, the Blues won the division. They won the Central last year. But when it came down to it in the first round, they lose to Minnesota. Pittsburgh has had their problems in the playoffs. They've gotten further than the Blues have. But it's a question of who can win the Stanley Cup with one area of their team that is a bit questionable. I personally think that the Penguins can overcome the defense that they have, because there is a possibility that the young guys, the Pouliot and Mata and Letang, can stay healthy and can improve. Whereas I don't think the Blues, unless they get themselves a top-notch goaltender, are going to be able to get past Minnesota, Chicago, Nashville in the Central.
Good one. What do you think? Where are you, Russ?
I'm going to pass to Kevin, and I'm going to think about it some more. Because I was coming up with my two things for both things.
Right. That's fine. Okay. Go ahead, Kev. We'll let you last.
I like both teams. I don't know that I see that. I guess I'll go with the Penguins. But again, I'm struggling with it a little bit because I don't think St. Louis's flaw is all that significant. I mean, like, everybody questioned Corey Crawford before he won. Dubnyk in Minnesota, the goalie that beat him last year, was considered an average to below average goalie before he got hot last season. Brian Elliott has outperformed Dubnyk, in my opinion, and he's really never been really given an opportunity. His save percentage numbers and the way he's performed since he got there, I just think St. Louis could win. Why couldn't they win that series? But I like the comparison because the Blues have a better defense, obviously better than Pittsburgh's. But Pittsburgh has more star power and just offensive might now that they've added Phil Kessel, and Tarasenko, of course, gives them one superstar. So it's a very similar team. But I think Pittsburgh's defense will be better, just as Mike does, I think, than people think it's going to be. I think Pouliot is a pretty good prospect. I think Mata, even though he's still young, to me feels proven. That's ridiculous to say because he's so young and he's only played one season. But I don't have any doubt that he's going to be a top performer. And I saw a lot of Pittsburgh games last year, and Letang was excellent before his injury, and he was just such a great skater. So I have faith in that, and I think Scuderi understands the game well enough to know what his limitations are. What I do think hurt him, though, was that trade with Anaheim when they gave up Dupré. They could really use him right now. Ian Cole, by the way, was one of their most effective defensemen down the stretch last year. So.
No, he definitely was. I'm surprised. In my opinion, the Blues are definitely the better of these two teams. It's not even close. I just think that
it's not close.
No, it isn't. It isn't because I'm not, because I think goaltending. First of all, I'll take issue with Mike saying that these, and I've even defended him, but Marc-Andre Fleury has not been the problem with that the Penguins have had in some of the playoff series. Maybe not last year, but in the past there have been many where he has been.
2 years he hasn't. He was
right.
4 previous years he was.
Yeah, the 4 previous years. That's a lot of years. Well, he was for 4 years, and he still didn't win them any. It's not like he's come out and stolen anything for them in the other 2 years. And I think that we've talked many times about the psychological aspect of Marc-Andre Fleury, which I still think is enormous. That he's emotional and the team rides that emotion so much. There's so much to him, and I think defensively, obviously there's no comparison. St. Louis is better defensively, but offensively, it's not that far off either in my mind. Like offensively, you've got some really serious players on the Blues. Tarasenko is as good as they get. He's a star. So I think that, offensively, of course you got Crosby and Malkin and Kessel and that's Holmquist. I mean, not but Hornquist. I always call him Holmquist because I always think of it as Holmstrom, Hornquist. But yeah, I think that I just think the Blues are going to win this. If they play in a series, I think it's 5 games. I think the Blues take them out in 5.
You sure it's not a sweep?
I'm sure it's not a sweep. I'm not sure it's not a sweep. I'm really not. I mean, and the Blues, the goaltending's an issue, but
I'm still trying to get over that they're so much better than the
they are. I mean, they just.
I think they're so much better than a team with Crosby and Malkin.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that team with Crosby and Malkin last year was horrible. I mean, they were really bad. And yes, they've added Phil Kessel, but they've also lost Paul Martin, who was such a huge part of their team. Defensively, they've just gotten worse, and this team couldn't compete. If you threw the Penguins into the Western Conference, they're not making the playoffs in my mind. I mean, I don't know.
That's a bold statement.
That's a bold statement. I like the Blues over the Penguins in 7, but the reason I like them is because they've got a little more size, a little more grit, and better defense. And I think in a 7-game series, that would prevail. And I do like their scoring. It's not the same as Pittsburgh. It's not even close. But I do like Jaden Schwartz a lot. I do like Tarasenko a lot. I like Backus in the crease. There are certain things. Stastny is good. He'll have a better year this year. So they're close in that regard, but they're definitely way better on defense. And I just think their overall physical game would wear down the Penguins.
Yeah, this is the kind of team the Penguins. This is the kind of team the Penguins don't like playing. I mean, this is the Blues are exactly. They're like they would come at you like the Flyers go at the Penguins in the same kind of way, and the Penguins have had all kinds of fits with the Flyers. I also really am a big believer, and at least people who talk to me are really big believers in Jordan Binning.
I am too. You can put me on the list
as being their real goalie. Like that's their goalie, and that whether or not he gets there this year or not is going to be fascinating because they have. Hitchcock doesn't usually like to do that, but this kid has been. Everybody I've talked to say he's been better than Elliott was in the minors, and that's how good he's been. Looking at his stats, he had a 2.35 and a goals against average and a .916 for the Chicago Wolves.
I mean, Jake Allen was AHL Goalie of the Year 2 years ago. So I mean, and don't get me wrong, he had a fine year last year. When it came, he was an inexperienced NHL goaltender going in the playoffs. He was given the #1 job over Elliott, which I thought was going to be the case all year long, that they were going to go with Allen. And he played okay, but this team, Ryan Miller, Halak, Elliott, and now Allen, they've not received a standout goaltending performance to get them over the hump, and that's really what they need. This is one of the best teams in the league, but they need that goalie to get them over the hump, and they haven't received that. So that's why I went with Pittsburgh, because I think Fleury, in a pinch, can get that team over the hump, like he did against Columbus a couple years ago.
All right, I've got my Sophie's Choice for players if you want it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Have Michael finish one more thing, and then you can be able to go. Your Sophie's Choice, I like that.
Yeah,
but I want to finish one thought on Jordan Binnington. Sorry, gosh, we keep saying Binghamton. I'm a big fan of Darren Pangs, who does a lot of good stuff with St. Louis, and I used to write for Hockey Buzz, and he just swears to me up and down that kid's the real deal, that kid is the guy who will come in, and he's only 6'1", which is one of the things I was looking at to see how big he was. Not that big of a goalie, 6'1", 170. Hitchcock loves big goalies. So this might not. I mean, this could be Hitch's final run here, but so maybe not this year, but next year. Jordan could be a big factor for them.
Well, maybe he should trade for, what was it, Magnus Hellberg?
Right. Hitch
6'8".
Hitch loves big goalies. He just doesn't think he didn't think anything of Halak when the Flyers, which was really funny that eventually Halak ended up in St. Louis. But when the Flyers played the Canadiens that year, Halak took out the Caps and the Penguins. I remember talking to Hitch about it, and Hitch was just, he's so small. Well, we'll take him apart, and they did. They did end up. They crashed the net more than the Penguins and Capitals did, and that made the difference. But so yeah, that's a good one. Mike, so give us the final. So what's the actual stance there? So I went with St. Louis. You guys
It was
both went with
2-2. Both of them 2-2.
2 again. All right. Wow. We are. You're winning this one, Mike. If you get another 2-2, now you're going to just give us 2 random things to compare.
Yeah, I went the movie route because since I worked at a movie theater for a long time, and two of my favorite movies, similar genre, both submarine movies. One is the classic Hunt for Red October, based on the Tom Clancy novel. The other is Crimson Tide with Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman. Similar plot lines. To me, Crimson Tide was more of a mutiny on the Bounty in a sub, whereas Hunt for Red October was more of a Cold War thriller, involving defection and things of that nature. To me, the thing because I think both had great casts, Sean Connery tipped the scales for me in Hunt for Red October. I don't think Alec Baldwin was the best Jack Ryan. I actually think Harrison Ford was. But that movie was so great, and I saw it literally in the movie theater about a dozen times for free, by the way, because I worked there. But I saw it about a dozen times and own it on DVD. So I would go with the Hunt for Red October.
Didn't see either of these movies, so I have to abstain from this. Closest thing I got to this movie, I'd say, was probably Finding Nemo, but I'm going to leave it there. But how about you, Russ? You seen both these films?
Yeah, I'm going to go Hunt for Red October because of the strength of Connery as well. Although I love Gene Hackman, but I think Connery really did tip the scale on that. I agree.
Kevin?
It's unanimous. I'm a big Clancy guy. I read all of it.
Right.
Ryan as a character, one of my favorite all-time fictional characters, and what's interesting about that is that they have to they don't know that he's defecting. Jack Ryan has to figure it out.
Right.
And then he has to convince people that he's right. That's what he's trying to do. So it sort of has some suspense and some intrigue, and it's just a more complicated plot line. So it's unanimous. Hunt for Red October.
Hunt for Red October wins in a landslide. Excellent.
Who is the worst Jack Ryan?
Yeah, I'd say Baldwin.
Well, there's been 4 Jack Ryans. I cannot think of the name of the actor who plays Captain Kirk in the new Star Trek, but he was Jack Ryan in one movie.
Chris Pine.
And I thought
Chris Pine.
Chris Pine. I think not to say that Chris Pine is a bad actor, but I actually think Harrison Ford was the best. Alec Baldwin, even Ben Affleck was pretty good as Jack Ryan in The Sum of All Fears, but Chris Pine was the worst of the 4.
The worst character use that I just can't stand is that you read any of the Reacher novels?
Yes.
He's 6'5", the character is, and Tom Cruise plays him in the movie.
And
I can't get over that.
And the first Jack Reacher movie was pretty much a bust. It wasn't a big hit, but yet Tom Cruise is going to make a sequel to it.
Yeah, he is. Well, it's because he's Tom Cruise. Why is he making a sequel? Because he's Tom Cruise.
Right. Tom Cruise, exactly. So Russ, before we get into you, we have to get a couple quick. You're going to do quick hits on some of our other that we did the other day. So quick hits with you. First of all, I'm trying to remember. We had you got to go Dowdy or Duncan Keith.
Dowdy.
Dowdy. All right. Dowdy or Shea Weber.
Dowdy.
All right.
So I lost 3-1 on the Dowdy.
Yes, you did. Montreal or Calgary? Montreal. Okay. And what was Kevin's one between the two?
Wasn't it? Oh God.
I can't think of it for a second. You remember what yours team?
No, it wasn't Chinese food. It was his wild card. I can't remember the wild card.
I was trying to remember what Kevin's teams were.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh yeah, it was Edmonton and Buffalo, right?
Edmonton and Buffalo, yeah.
That's right. We can hear you, Kev. Yep.
Okay. All right. So.
Edmonton and Buffalo.
Right.
I'll go Edmonton.
Edmonton. Okay.
That ties it 2-2.
That ties Edmonton, and then then I did Star Wars or Star Trek.
Star Wars, not even close.
All right, that ties it up at 2 because that's good.
Everything's gonna be tied.
It's pretty interesting. And then what was the other Kevin's?
What?
What was your
not
two
the
things?
teams, not the players, but your wild card selection?
Whopper with cheese versus.
Yes. Whopper with cheese or a Big Mac?
Mm. Back in my meat-eating days, I was more a Whopper with cheese guy.
Oh, come on.
All right, so that ties it up too, right?
It ties that one up too.
Are you a vegetarian now?
No, but I just don't eat any red meat, veal, or pork.
Okay.
Or
There you
lamb.
go.
Other than that, no.
Well, there's still some things left.
Maybe other things that live. And all right, so now Les, give us your first pick here.
Now, my first pick with the players, one of the names did just come up, but I think on a snap judgment, people will go one way, but then if you think about it, you might go the other way. I'm going to go Aaron Ekblad versus Shea Weber because they're almost the identical size. They're both like 6'4". Ekblad's like 218, and Weber's like 223. Weber had a couple more goals and a couple more points. They're both physical guys. One's 19 in Aaron Ekblad, and one is 30 in Shea Weber.
Right.
And so, but even for this year, even for this upcoming year,
just this coming year,
I still would think Aaron Ekblad is a good choice because I will take that little extra speed over Shea Weber because Shea Weber is slowed down just a tad compared to a guy like him, and the shots are pretty comparable. Weber might be a little faster, but they're both really good. So that's my argument for the players.
No, very good. All right, Kevin, what are your thoughts on that one?
Ekblad.
You would take Ekblad this year?
Yeah, even this year with the energy he showed, and what did everyone say about him last year? It wasn't like he was 18 years old. It was like he was a veteran, and you get the youthful enthusiasm. He'll get better every game, and who knows? I'm not saying Shea Weber is definitely entered the back nine of his career, but is he as good as he was 5 years ago? I'm not so sure that he is. So
interesting. Mike,
if you're calculating potential, it's definitely Ekblad, but I'm basing who's better on who has done what so far.
The way I like to do it is just you got one game. All right, so you got one game.
And I have to take Shea Weber. I mean, Shea Weber is one of the best defensemen in the NHL. He has proved it over a number of years. He hasn't won Stanley Cups, but I think that's we've talked about why Nashville has budgetary constraints or has had in the past, and they haven't been able to put a team around him that has been capable of winning a Stanley Cup other than that 1 year when they got to the second round. I think Ekblad is fantastic. I think he's going to be a great defenseman. But he's only had 1 year. He's the number 1 overall pick. He's had a great year. He was in the mix for the Calder. I think he could potentially be as good as Weber down the line. But right now, Weber has proved how good he is, and based on that, I would choose Weber right now.
Yeah, in the one game, I have to agree with Mike and tie this thing up, unfortunately. Because I'm with you. In the one game, I'm going with Shea Weber because I think he brings more leadership to the table. He is just a guy that everybody, Ekblad's younger, and I know he's still a commanding force, but I'm gonna call an audible here and throw it out to the panel. If you're starting a team right now,
wow,
Ekblad or Seth Jones?
To me, it's Ekblad.
Yeah, it's Ekblad. And to be honest with you, if you'd have phrased it to me one game, I probably would take. I was looking at it as a season, so I was counting on Ekblad getting. So I would take actually Weber over Ekblad for one game.
One game. Like, who's better? Who's the better player right now?
For one game, yeah. I would take Weber for one game. But for a season, I would take Ekblad.
So you guys all go with Ekblad over Seth Jones?
Yep.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
I'm not so sure about that one.
I think his offensive potential is just too great, Ekblad. I mean, Seth Jones is great. I mean, he could win a Norris Trophy, but Ekblad is the best 18-year-old defenseman since Ray Bork.
No, that's for sure. But I've got to see more than 1 year out of Ekblad. Just because we've seen what happens with defensemen in the NHL. I'm not saying he's going to diminish off to nothing, but look at Tyler Myers. Look at certain defensemen who have come in just gangbusters. Jovanovski, and they still end up as great defensemen, but they look like they're going to be the greatest defenseman ever, which is where Ekblad is now. Seth Jones has been in the league a couple years now, and keeps getting better. In my mind, and he I think is the most important defenseman on the Nashville Predators. I really do think that, and I still think to this day that I would take him over Nathan McKinnon in the draft, Seth Jones.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't do that, and I'm telling you, all the way through from everywhere that I've seen Ekblad, very few flaws in his game, just very few and at any level that I've ever viewed him at.
Yeah, no, I mean he's a phenomenal talent. He's like Chris Pronger, he's going to be all that. Could he be better than Chris Pronger eventually? Even maybe he could be, but I don't know. It's hard to say anybody can be better than Chris Pronger. I mean, but that's just one of those things. All right, give us your teams, Russ. Very good players.
All right, teams. I'm going New York Islanders and Winnipeg Jets.
Oh, excellent.
And the thing is, it's funny. Like
that's a great one.
If people are wondering where the next John Tavares is, it's Nikolai Ehlers for the Winnipeg Jets, and whether he gets that chance this year or next year, he will be an instant impact player. Like, you can't hold this guy back offensively with his size and speed. He's just grease lightning. So that's, there's that. Both teams' defense is not where you want them to be, but are getting better. And you got Trouba being the biggest star of any defense on both sides. But Ryan, what's his name? Ryan, now his name's
Drome.
No, defenseman.
For which?
For the Islanders, 100-mile-an-hour slap shot. They drafted him a couple years ago.
Ryan
Pulock.
Yeah, Ryan Pulock will be on the Islanders this year and add that 100-mile-an-hour slap shot to probably at least the second power play. And so that's something where that's a big bonus for them. Offenses are pretty similar. You might say the Islanders are a little flashier. Maybe defense goes the edge to Winnipeg. Maybe the Islanders get a little edge in goal, but it's close.
Really close.
Really close. I mean, I'll tell you right now, if Ehlers were to make the Islanders and Pulock were to make – if Ehlers were to make Winnipeg and Pulock to the Islanders, I would take the Winnipeg Jets over them in a series.
That's a really good one. They're two very similar teams in my mind, and two teams that are all prospect. That's what makes it so difficult is they're such prospect teams. And we don't know exactly what they have yet. Wow, that's pretty something.
You know in Bufflin and True.
Oh yeah, you got Bufflin for sure.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I'm going with the Islanders. I just like Halak. I trust him more than I trust Pavlik. And defense.
Connor Hellebuck this year, though.
Pardon me.
What if it's Connor Hellebuck?
Yeah, well, but we don't know that. Connor Hellebuck played well at the World Championships. I think we got to just project that the guy that was there is going to be the guy.
Okay.
I would take them. I like Tavares a lot, and I think they have scoring depth there. They've got Okposo, they got Brock Nelson, they've got Franz Nielsen. They got a lot of guys that can find the net. Strom, and Johnny Boychuk and Letty has changed that defense. And Winnipeg I like as well. I mean, they got, to me, the most underrated line in the league with Wheeler and Little and Ladd.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that they have the same depth that the Islanders have. So I'll stick with the Jets. But I'm bullish on. Or excuse me, I'll just stick with the Islanders. But I'm also bullish on the Jets as well because I like that team.
What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I'm more Islanders simply because I think there's more there now than there is with the Jets. But I mean, the Jets could eclipse them in a year or two. To take Russ's point, Ehlers, Morrissey, Nick Patan, Hellebuck. They have a lot of young players coming along. I think the Islanders up front, they have Tavares and he's established. Ehlers could be as good as him, but he hasn't proven that yet. So I think we have to wait. But I like the depth of the Islanders with guys like Lee and Brock Nelson and Bailey and Okposo and Ryan Strome and Del Cole could make the team. Maybe this year, maybe next year. He's another really good young player. I think Winnipeg has an advantage on defense. I think Trouba is going to be, he'll probably make the U.S. Olympic team in 2018 if the U.S. does go there. And Myers played completely different in Winnipeg from how he played in Buffalo. He got out of the bad situation and he played really well. The big question with Winnipeg is Ladd and Bufflin, whether they can get him re-signed. Right now, the Islanders don't have any dilemmas like that. They've locked up Boychuk, they've locked up Letty, so they have the team that they want. And I think their goaltending is remarkably better than Winnipeg's. I think Pavlik has just been up and down over the last couple of years. Michael Hutchinson is not an answer, and I think Halak, can be at least a serviceable goaltender. Maybe Hollabuck in a year or two eclipses him, but I think right now the Islanders are overall a better team.
Good one. Last year they played each other twice. I was just looking to see what happened last year when they played each other, just for the heck of it, and they each won 3-2. Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
The Islanders won in overtime though, so the Jets get the extra point in that season series last year. It's really man, it's a really good one. I definitely like the defense on the Jets better. I'm going to call the goaltending a draw.
Whoa.
And I like Halak a lot, but I liked what we saw out of both goalies last year in Winnipeg, and then they have a third goalie. I think that, as much as I like Halak, and I'm a real big Halak fan, and when I was on the Islanders podcast the other day, someone said, what would be my job as GM? What was the first thing I would do? And I said I would tie Halak up long term. That's what I would do if I was an Islanders GM, because they do finally have a goalie there. He did let you down last year at the end of the year, the Islanders. And I really felt that, especially in the last couple games, especially even in the last game of the season, which is so hard to put on somebody. But Halak, it's because of Halak and his inability in the shootout, the Islanders don't get home ice advantage in that first series. So it's a hard thing to throw on somebody, but it's obviously there's a lot of mistakes that happened before then that could have gone the other way, so he wouldn't have been put in that position. But at the end of the day, he was put in that position. But I would tie him up. At the same time, I do think the offense in the Islanders is far superior. I think the loss of Frolik actually is pretty significant, and it sort of has been underplayed. But he's a good player, and he was an important player for them.
But they got their Lundqvist back.
Right.
They did, but still, I would rather have Frolik. Honestly, I mean, and I know that he doesn't have the upside, but Frolik was always very, very good for them, and he was always very consistent. And there aren't many guys that are consistent scorers on that team. Frolik was one of them. They're going to miss him. So at the end of the day,
come on, make a pick.
Winnipeg. I'm going to go. I think Winnipeg wins in the series. I think that's what I'll say. In a best of 7 series, Winnipeg wins it. Because I don't even know why. I'm just going on a hunch. I really can't even say. When I just picture the teams playing in my head in the series, I see Winnipeg winning that series. But both teams could be conference finalists in the next 2 or 3 years. Either team has that ability. So they're that good. All right, give us a thing, Russ. Give us a comparison to end the show with here.
All right, it's going to be Yes versus Rush. Both have high-pitched singers.
Thanks for joining us, Kevin. We appreciate you coming on board today.
Eddie Lee, very good friends with John Anderson. Both really solid bass players. Both very solid guitarists, drummers.
Right.
There's edges to give in each department. I'm a Yes fan, so I will give Yes the edge. But I think when people think about them, they're pretty similar.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm going Yes all the way, though. Mike's not going to. I just think that I think Rush is a little bit into themselves. Just throw it out there. I get to say I'm not saying that Yes doesn't have the same kind of egos at work, because
John Anderson has an ego. He's a nice
there's no question about that, right? But I always felt like that Rush overplayed versus Yes, and that I really feel that drummer wise, I mean, there's not many better than Neil Peart, but I feel like he overplays. I just do. I think he tries, and the fact that they had three people in their band, it felt like they all had to do so much. Was always impressed with how much sound they put out, but it also, I felt like it made them overplay. There aren't many times that they actually simplify themselves. Like, there's a couple times when Yes will do just a simple Wondrous Stories type song or whatever. Rush doesn't seem to really do that. They don't ever just get down to like, okay, let's just write a simple 3-chord song with words on top of it that's beautiful. Rush won't go there, so I think Yes is more versatile that way.
See, I mean, Rush has done that. Show Me, Don't Tell Me, or Cinderella Man, or Close.
Okay, well, maybe I'm not as familiar with Rush then.
Yeah, they're very very simplistic songs. But I mean, see, the thing is, I think Rush is more based on like the power trio, like Cream, with the progressive rock influences, and one of the influences is Yes. So I think if you ask Geddy Lee, he would say yes.
Right.
over
And
Rush.
that's
I'm gonna agree with Geddy Lee and say yes, because Yes has been doing it since 1968 or 69, and other than King Crimson or Genesis, nobody has done it better in terms of progressive rock, which is another reason why I will ban my going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame until they let Yes in there.
But if you've got one concert to play them in right now, you're going to go with Rush, because Rush is better right now than Yes is, I think.
Yeah, Rush right now is better, but that video that you were hearing, that was a 6-year-old playing the drums he was doing Neil Peart's drums.
Wow. You see, so yeah, I mean, that's Kevin.
I saw an 11-year-old girl playing YYZ on a keyboard, with all the effects, and it was pretty close. That doesn't mean that it's easy.
Oh, sorry, 7-year-old, yeah.
Right. No.
Kevin,
I'm going to be a yes man because my wife just told me that I needed to be a yes. And she just compares it to the Blues versus the Penguins. So.
Oh wow.
So.
That's pretty close. That's not a bad comparison.
I like your wife for that, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, getting back to the Penguins and Blues, I looked up some stuff while we were discussing. They played twice last year as well. The Penguins won the one game in regulation. The Blues won in overtime. The Penguins had better power play and a better penalty killing. The Blues scored more goals. They were 7 goals apart in goals against in 82 games.
Wow.
Well, that is tight. I mean, there's no 2 ways about that. That's tight. It's tight as a cat's. Jeez.
No landslides,
No. There shouldn't be in this thing, right? I mean, that's the whole idea of it.
Good. I like it. I thought the Getzlaf versus Kopitar one was just really difficult to pick, and I thought Winnipeg and the Islanders was hard to.
There's no point in doing it if it's going to be an easy choice. It's got to be something you.
Yeah, no, but some of them, like Pittsburgh versus St. Louis. You and I felt good about Pittsburgh, and Eck felt great about Pittsburgh. I think there's a lot of those where I don't think anybody feels good picking against either Kopitar or Getzlaf. I guess that's my point.
No, that's definitely true, and those are, I think that the other teams are more polarizing. Like I really think to myself, one of the stories I'm working on is what I always work on this every year is who are the most desperate teams in hockey, and it's and that's I've been going through, and these are St. Louis and Pittsburgh are 2 in the top 5, and I always determine this. I try to determine this with a formula that I have, basically how many good regular seasons have they had versus how poorly they've gone in the playoffs, how long their coach has been there, certain things that just tend to lead to desperation, how many guys are going to be gone after this year, and is their window opening or closing, and I just think that St. Louis has a longer way to go than Pittsburgh, or a better chance this year, but it's such a tough call.
I got a couple of hockey things to throw in here.
Yeah.
Run. I've been talking to GMs. I've started yesterday for preview stuff and for something I was working on, the story that I wrote today on that's probably out on the web about the number of free agents left and why it is and the bargains and so forth. And the only thing that came out of that I found was interesting is that Kenny Holland pointed out that the pool of available players, it's not just the cap, has grown to the point we haven't had expansion in 15 years. In the meantime, we're starting to draw players out of California and Arizona. There are just more available players. So sooner or later, we were going to get to this point where we, where we have 60 players who are veterans who made more than $1 million who right now have no contract. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But in sampling all the GMs and talking to them just kind of off the record, I asked them what was the team that they thought had made the most progress, or the team they thought was going to be a lot better this season. And what I'm getting is Columbus. Columbus is the team that GMs really like, that they feel is making, either through the trades they made, if their younger players are going to get better, and so forth. So for their worth. And then the third thing is, and this would be a good thing for Russ to weigh in on, I've spoken in the past, obviously anybody who watched the Olympics knew that the Americans were at a total disadvantage at center ice. They just didn't really have a number one center. to compete. And I've said all along that the Canadians' probably number 11 center might have been USA's number 1.
Yeah.
Now let's project ahead now to not this World Cup, but the next World Cup. The center ice for the Americans could be Jack Eichel, Austin Matthews, and Dylan Larkin, and then either Johnson, Tyler Johnson, or Stepan will be both 29 at that point.
Yep.
Suddenly there's center ice. I mean that center ice, if those players project to be the players that we think they will be, that's going to be similar to the hockey's greatest generation, where they had Modano, LaFontaine, Roenick, Waite, and just for fun to win a face-off, Joe Lotto.
Yeah, right.
So it's.
I put them up against anybody. I mean that
but
tremendous.
Canada's still going to be able to come back with the.
Yeah, I mean they're going to have Ryan Johansson. They're going to still be there.
McDavid, Taves.
Right, McDavid. But the thing is, they're going to close. The U.S. is going to close the gap severely on that, and really give them a chance. Like Kevin said, if they're sort of getting to where they're supposed to get at that point, that's going to be a really competitive team, like one that really has a chance to win a gold.
Well, even this World Cup, it's a better situation because they do have Johnson, who will be able to play. But still, just as the Canada still has Crosby, Taves. That's just no comparison. Tyler Johnson's a good player, but
he's not in that group.
No, he's not in that group, and it hurts the USA as well that they're in the years of the greatest hockey generation in America, they had Guerin and they had Tkachuk. So they had big, strong, physical, mean players who were also great players. The top skilled players on the U.S. are not that necessarily big players.
They're producing. The U.S. is producing better defensemen every year than they're producing like the star offensive players. They're coming along, but not as frequently.
Yeah.
Seth Jones.
Right.
Yeah.
Trouba, Jones. You can go through it. It's a pretty good list, and it's growing.
Oh, for sure. That's the big thing. All right, well, we're going to get out of here, and we're going to have something to play you out today. We're going to have I put something musically because we were talking about what we were talking about. This is totally different. This is not Yes or Rush. But what it is Luna Lee, who plays the gayagyam, which is a Korean instrument. It's a 12-string or 21-string instrument. And I support her on Patreon.com. It's a really cool site, Patreon. You got to check it out. And she just puts out a whole bunch of great covers. And this is her doing Stairway to Heaven, the guitar solo of Stairway to Heaven on the gayagyam, which is just it's a crazy hard instrument to play. So I'll say, remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. And we will now switch to Luna Lee. Here she goes. This is worth the price of admission, guys. I promise you that. Here we go. Boom, boom. Thanks for watching. Here we go. Oh, shoot, my bad. I'm muting it.
Very deliberate.
Here we go. Okay, I'm going to go back here because this is too good. Ready? Here we go. All right. It's chaos here. Here we go. Here it comes. There you go.
That's pretty impressive.
Isn't that amazing or what?
Yeah, that's great.
I haven't seen Jimmy Page look so good in years.
I love the fact she's got an Al and Friends shirt on.
Yeah, she's not even smoking.
I know. It's incredible. So anyway, there you go. With Huff and Buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.